All right, good. Broadcast is about bridging the black and white divide, economics, politics, and community. And this is going to be a hard conversation. It may be a bit uncomfortable, but just know it comes from a place of love, and that's what we're going to be. We're going to be talking from our hearts tonight. So this candid conversation, I have these conversations about once a week, and I have very candid conversations, and I call it Candid Conversations with the Candidate. Like I said, tonight we're going to talk about economics, politics, and community. And these are the keys in a lot of what I'm seeing in bridging this black and white divide. America is in a whole different landscape right now. So we need to have these hard conversations, and we need to be honest and very forthcoming and upfront and intentional. So again, I'm Tamara Johnson-Shealy, candidate for Senate District 40. Senate District 40 is all of the North DeKalb area right outside of Atlanta. It is a little bit of Fulton County, and it's also Gwinnett County as well. Like I said, we're doing this every week. Be prepared for these hard conversations. So I'm going to introduce you tonight to two of my guests. I have Mr. Chris Larson, and Chris is out in Sacramento, California. And once you hear him speak, you'll understand why I have invited him to this particular broadcast. Hey, Chris, welcome.
Hey. Hey, thanks Tamara for doing this. Thanks for having me on. Like you said, I'm Chris Larson here in Sacramento. I'm originally out of New York City, New York, born and raised in Manhattan, and I'm here in California now. I've been here for about 2 years, doing a lot of organizing around Black business and around Black politics locally here in Sacramento. I'm the page admin and creator for the Sac Black Biz Networks, which are a combination of Facebook pages, Facebook groups, and Instagram pages that collect, organize, and share information on and for Black-owned business owners and Black entrepreneurs, and also those who want to support Black business owners and Black entrepreneurs. And we also do a Black media here that specifically connects Black wealth and Black politics here locally. I'm also the director of communications for the California Young Democrats Black Caucus. And I also do some work as the chair now of the Racial and Social Justice Committee at OWLS, Organize, Win, Legislate here in Sacramento. So that's me.
Yes. So you see why I invited him, y'all. This conversation, I say, is going to be very interesting. And we have Mr. Sampson Burrell, Mr. Sampson Xavier Burrell. How are you, Mr. Sampson? How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me. I am good. I'm good.
Yes. You want to tell us who you are and all about yourself?
Of who I am. My name is Sampson Burrell. I am currently the serving president of South DeKalb Community Alliance. Now, you may ask, what is South DeKalb Community Alliance? South DeKalb Community Alliance is a voice for the people of South DeKalb County. It is a voice that will make its name and will let the residents know that their day of getting proper service, their day of getting good representation is about to take place in this county. For so long in this county, people have felt left out. They have felt as if their voices have not been heard. They feel that they are getting their tax dollars spent without their permission. So South DeKalb Community Alliance is coming forth to say those days of freeloading by political elected officials are over with. We will hold elected officials accountable. And for those that don't do their job for the people, it is time for you to vacate that seat, because one of the things that we're going to be focusing on, this is an election year. And we have commissioner seats that are up. We have a House representative seat there and state senators. And we're going to be looking at those representatives' records and how it affects the people in South DeKalb. And for those people that have been in office for years doing nothing, 2018, we're going to give you a pink slip. It's time for you to go. Thank you.
So you see why I invited Sampson. So this broadcast is going to be on fire. So you know what? This whole thing kind of came to me, and it was like a rush, because I saw a video on social media just a couple of days ago. And I was disturbed by this video, Chris and Samson, and those of you that are watching on Facebook Live. I was disturbed. And let me tell you why I was disturbed. I was disturbed because I saw in this video where there were 4 stores in the South DeKalb area that have closed. It was a Sam's, it was a Kroger,
a Publix, and a Walmart.
That these stores were closing. It was detrimental to this community. These communities are, they rly on these businesses and these services. They rely on this, and it was that angered me, number one. But the flip side of that angered me was the fact that they didn't respect those dollars enough to stay in those urban communities. And Chris, I know that you've seen this happen where you see these businesses literally leave these urban communities that need them the most, where we have food deserts and we have a lack of resources as it is, and these big businesses who are quote unquote getting this huge tax deduction right now that they should be like in putting more people to work and doing more things to help these communities, gone out of business. When I saw these people literally I felt like they were like begging them to stay or if they were angry because these people were leaving. And I said, you know what? If they don't want your dollars in these communities, guess what? Let them go. Yeah. Let them go. Yeah. There's enough people in the community that can start businesses and do some great things. Let them go. Chris?
So as we had this conversation, I think it was yesterday, and we talked a little bit about this situation. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is there are two things that come to mind pretty quickly. First thing is, this is Black life in America. I mean, the fact that we are in such a dangerous and really bad position in terms of Black wealth and Black wealth, because that's where we are. These kinds of things, unfortunately, can happen, have happened, and at least for the foreseeable future will continue to happen because we're in such a vulnerable position economically. Mm-hmm. The second thing that comes to mind is, and I'm glad you just sort of put your finger on it right now, Tamara, which is, you mentioned a tax incentive. These are politically driven, politically determined economic decisions and economic outcomes, and local policy, the things that your local elected representatives are doing out in the open and behind closed doors, though that matters in terms of what you see or what you saw happened with the Kroger or with any large business. So let me give you an example that is similar to what you're talking about here in the city of Sacramento, right? Late last year, our local government gave approved tax incentives for very large corporations to relocate their businesses into the city of Sacramento and create so-called new jobs, right? So that's local taxpayer money going to bring in businesses that are big corporations into the city of Sacramento. Now, that's a political decision to do something on the economic front, and that's the same kind of it may be sort of a different process with the example that you're giving, but the point is these are political decisions, these are political actions that are influencing the economics that you see specifically in that example that you gave.
Yeah, Samson, I know you saw the video too, right, Samson?
Yes.
What was your take on it?
Well, first I have to be honest with you, I was angry. Mm-hmm. I was angry. For the community to be begging someone to stay to spend their money angered me. And I'm going to tell you why. Within a 15-mile radius, you have a Walmart, a Kroger's, a Publix, a Ingles. And the question is, why for so long there have been all these stores in one area? And then abruptly, within a 3-month period, of those 6 stores, 3 of them leave within a 3-month time. Now they say, okay, it's theft. Okay, I'll go for that. They say that they're losing money. But this is what bothers me the most about this whole situation. When someone owns a business and they decide to take away their business, basically what they're telling you is, I don't want your money anymore. Sam's, Walmart is the parent company of Sam's. So you have people here crying about Sam's. No, go to Walmart and protest. Why would you complain about Sam's and the next day you go to Walmart? You are giving these people your money. You should demand more and better. And when they want to take their business, leave and find a business that will cater to the community. We have to set a standard, not only for citizens, but for businesses. If you come in this community, this is what we want, and we have to hold people and businesses accountable. And we're not doing that in South DeKalb. And that's why South DeKalb Community Alliance is going to draw the line. And the line is, we're going to raise the standard. For people, individuals, families, even churches. Where are all these ministers in these big churches do not in the community show the people what a better community is? But you got people spending their last rent money and their light bill money for their 10%. I have nothing wrong. I have no complaint against that. But I do have a complaint with ministers who run these mega churches are not out in the community dealing with these social issues.
Wow. That's a wake-up call, right, Chris? This is like a wake-up call. And this is why we have to have these conversations out loud, because, they don't really, we have our own set of problems in urban communities and in Black communities and, communities of color. We have our own set of problems. But what I want my white communities to understand is that you are not, you have to be very aware of what's happening in these communities around you. And the reason why I called this broadcast Bridging the Divide, and I wanted to talk about bridging this Black and white divide, because I want the white community to understand that these problems that are happening in the urban communities and in the Black communities, these problems have to be addressed in all communities. And you can't turn a blind eye to what's happening in these urban communities. It has to be a collective effort. When people don't have jobs, it affects the economy as a whole. When people can't feed their families, it affects the economy as a whole. So nobody is oblivious from what's happening in any community. And we all have to be intentional, and we have to figure out how to work together, because there is a divide in the world, economically, politically, in our communities. There's a divide, Chris, right?
Yeah. So we have to be honest here. So it's absolute, the way that our economy is organized and has been organized for a very long time is that the gains of one group of people, or the losses of one group of people, are the gains of another group of people. And it's absolutely the case. And we have to just sort of be real about this.
Say that again, Chris. Say that again. The loss, because that's
right. So so my gains, at least how the economy is organized now, my gains come entirely from someone else's losses. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely the case. And this speaks to this divide and why it's so intractable, and is because when we are losing as a community of Black people, it's very often the case that other communities are gaining. So when we're in this economically vulnerable position where, videos like the one you guys are talking about, happen, and when we're in this kind of vulnerable position in terms of Black wealth, right, and Black politics, but just in terms of Black wealth and Black business, where when we're so vulnerable, we are susceptible to these kinds of things, and our losses, our weakness is someone else's strength. So there are individuals in the non-Black community, whether it be Latinos, Asians, whites, that gain and that do well and do better and do good while and when we're in this economically vulnerable position. So one, we have to be able to say that and be honest about that, and that's and acknowledge that, because if we don't, we're going to be missing and I think an opportunity to one, be honest, but two, we're going to miss our chance to help close this divide, as we put it. So there are communities that benefit from us being in this weak and vulnerable position.
No. And I'm gonna talk about it from the political aspect. But Sanson, I think you like bubbling over there. So jump in right now.
When I say that it bothers me that, just step back for a minute and look at the elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
When you have elected officials that serve in a position and they are unreachable, they tell you they're going to come to your meeting and don't show. Or they promise you this and they promise you that, and the results is always the same. You have to make a stand. At this meeting where Sam's closed, you had where were you on Sam's clothes? Now you want to come out and say, well, we're here for the community. These meetings before. And let me say this as a bit of truth. I don't care how many meetings or town hall meetings these elected officials have. This is the truth. Sam's is not coming back here.
Nope.
What people need to do is go to Walmart, the parent company, and protest. Because Walmart basically is telling you, I decide when I want your money and how I want it. And I can take my store out of your community when I want to. But you want to go crying, asking them, what can we do to get Sam's back?
So can I put something on that tomorrow? So I think, and here we're talking about straight strategy, just in terms of what options are on the table for the particular example that we're talking about with the Kroger's, or excuse me, with the Sam's Club and with the Walmart, where you guys are, right? So, Samson is absolutely right. The fact that, there are local elected officials who are paying lip service to, community support, and who may, or who may or may not be, paying lip service to actually supporting the community members through this kind of time, right? It's because of, quite frankly, a lack of power on the part of African Americans locally. If you ask me, and it's not uncommon, African Americans are out of power, everywhere pretty much in the country. We don't have the political power, we don't have the political clout we need, to help influence these kinds of decisions. So for example, I'm sure the local elected officials knew way before you did that the Sam's Club was going to leave. Okay. Because Sam's, Walmart, almost every big company, almost every big industry group in the country is advocating within the city halls, is advocating and is lobbying and has relationships and is constantly working to influence the decisions of the local policymakers. So Samson, you're absolutely right to one point the finger toward the local elected officials. Absolutely right. But in terms of what the response and the reaction is after something like this happens, because you're absolutely right, Sam's is most certainly not coming back, and if they do come back, it's not because of something that we're going to say here tonight, right? But in terms of what do you do now, right? So yes, you can go and make a statement to Walmart, and demand that they do something. Another thing I think you can do, and something that we've been working on here, at the SAC Black Biz Networks, as we're sort of getting ourselves off the ground over the last year, is we need to be. And it's something that you do actually pretty well too, Tamara, with Politics Beauty Barber, actually, which is you're an advocate, on the forefront, and you're in these spaces pushing for legislation, regulation that's in the favor of the groups and the communities that you serve. So what does that look like in practice, specifically as we talk about this example, right? So yes, let's go to Walmart and let's make a big fuss, right? All right. That's sort of the outside game part, right? Technically you could have, you could be also trying to set up sort of more sit down meetings with people at Walmart to sort of talk about, what steps are possible going forward. That's a sort of inside game kind of thing. But outside, aside from that stuff, sort of the direct action against the corporate, the corporates here, you could also be at the same time advocating it. Well, first organizing, which I'm sure you're already doing, but advocating for policies locally that, one, prevent this kind of thing from happening again, but two, strengthen the alternatives to a Walmart or a Sam's Club, particularly those that are Black-owned businesses in the area that you live in.
Yeah,
you could
let's stay there, because I kind of want to take the conversation there, because you know what, I'm at a place, I'm kind of like Samson. I'm a little I'm disturbed because we actually I live a little bit north of the South DeKalb area, and I can just tell you that what I like to see is, I like to see Black businesses, emerge from this.
Right.
You know how to have grocery stores. Somebody knows how to run a grocery store. Guess what? There's Black farmers. I know a Black farmer who is literally starting these urban gardens. There's so much innovation that we could be embarking upon now that these corporate entities have left these communities, that now we need to put resources and money into these small Black.
Absolutely.
That's what I like to see it go.
This could actually, if you play this right, this could actually open up an opportunity for you, who are the local organizers and the local local activists on the ground there who are doing real community work. This could open up an opportunity for you to push the local electeds but really push for local public resources into, one, supporting the locally grown Black-owned businesses in the area that could possibly fill those gaps. And I'm just going to be real with y'all. They're not going to be able to do it by themselves right now. We're not in a position. And this is coming from someone, myself here, who's been working to organize Black businesses, here for some time now, and who's been studying Black business nationally. We're not in a position to take the place of a Sam's Club by ourselves right now, but we could be, and we will be, if local organizers and local activists such as yourselves are pushing for this same public resources to flow to Black business owners and would-be Black business owners and would-be Black entrepreneurs that flow to the Sam's Club, that flow to the Walmart, because they get as much government support as anyone.
Yeah, go jump in, Samson. What were you going to say? Because are you bubbling over? I know you, bro.
Let me say this, and I do agree with you, but let me tell you why myself and other individuals got together and started South DeKalb Community Alliance. I traveled throughout this county, and I talked to white people, black people, Mexican, Asians, and they all say the same thing. Mr. Burrell, we don't have a voice. We have people that come around during election time and they promise us A, B, C, and D. And we're going to throw in E because you're going to vote for me. And then after we have voted for them and got them in office, then they get amnesia.
Yep.
They forget about A, B, C, D, and don't mention E. And so South DeKalb Community Alliance said, enough. In this community, our schools have gone down. The governor said that we have the worst schools in the state. I don't agree with that. We have businesses leaving the area. We have young people who can't find jobs. We have older people who need a better quality of life. We have potholes in the streets. We can't get the trash picked up. Code enforcement do their job, and then code enforcement don't do their job. We need police. We need safety. So South DeKalb Community Alliance has said and will say, we have heard you time and time again. And now what we're asking is the greater community, the DK. I went to a delegation meeting a month or so ago, and the DeKalb had one representative texting on the phone while the people were talking. And I got up and said, how much longer do we as a people have to get them to do their job? You get a taxpayer's check to do it. Do it. Well, and Tamara, please forgive me, but this is an announcement to any people on this pod in South DeKalb. Take a broom and a rake, and we're going to get your out of office.
I told you. So you see why I invited Samson to the broadcast. I told you. I'm going to talk about this from a political perspective. So, the 3 areas that we were touching on tonight is community, economics, and politics. So from a political perspective, I'll just share with you that my district is, more affluent, the more affluent part of DeKalb County. And Chris, you said something that it was just, I had to write it down because you hit it right on the head. Someone else's gain is someone else's loss is someone else's gain.
Yeah. That's I mean, that's right now, that's capitalism. I mean, that's how our economic system is organized. And, so that, why does that matter? Well, it matters because it will inform what solutions you try to do, right? So one, a bad solution. So one, in my mind, a bad solution is worse than no solution in my mind, first of all. Okay. But just to that, piece, we need to be mindful of how our economy is organized and who are the winners and who are the losers and how those winners and losers are decided and politically, really. And that matters in terms of what you try to do when something like this happens, right? Because you said this earlier tomorrow, and I sort of went in a little deeper on it, right? when we're in this weak position, other communities are doing well and doing good. And that's gonna be the big sort of thing, right? Is how do we, if it is possible for all of us to go up at the same time, then we need to sort of break this link, where when I'm doing bad, you're doing good, and when you're doing bad, I'm doing bad still, which is so much of Black life.
You're right. It is capitalism and it's competitive. And the root of capitalism is competition. I get that. But guess what? In this America, we're all losing. Because guess what? What you don't see is that, they talk about these social programs. Let's go there. They talk about these social programs and, all these entitlements and these benefits that people are getting. But when you are intentional about strengthening these communities, helping these people get back to work and providing an opportunity for them to be successful too, guess what? There won't be a need for so many social programs. There won't be a need for these benefits that you want to take away. Give people an opportunity to succeed. I don't want to compete. I want to figure out how we complete. That's the word I want. No, not compete. How do we complete each other? Because guess what? In North DeKalb, where we are,
can I jump in?
And then the rest of DeKalb do bad. Because that's like an A and an F. We just average at this point. We ain't doing good or bad. We just somewhere in the middle. When we could be doing so much better as a county, as a state, as a nation, if we get beyond so much competitiveness and let's complete each other. Let's bridge these divides. And it really boils down to, it comes down to, we get beyond the economics, we get beyond the politics, then it becomes race. Some, they don't want some white people don't want to see Black people succeed. So we got to get beyond that as well. Samson, you wanted to jump in. I feel you.
One of the things that we have to do as a community as a whole, we have to learn to embrace, look at what the problems are. We have to out of this. It's I. No, it should be we as a community.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people. No. And here's a perfect good example. When I got together with some of the neighbors and we decided to form the association back. Well, this neighborhood has changed, a 360 degrees. And people always say, well, the community did it. Don't give me the credit. Give it to the States is a proven example that when the community embrace one another and make your issues my issues, we can move forward.
Yeah.
Now, Community Alliance is going to do for this great county. We're going to get people to make your name forward.
I like what you just said, Samson. You guys are like giving me all kinds of like talking points. Make your issues my issues, because we are one. And what affects me affects you. What affects you affects me. And if we start to collectively work together to build better communities, North and South DeKalb, all of Georgia, all of California, where you are, Chris. If we start to work to build these better communities, America wins. Like, how hard is this for people to understand? Why is it so hard to understand, Chris?
It's hard to understand because it doesn't 100% match with reality. And let me explain. So, but it's sort of what I was saying before. It's that America can do very well while Black people do very bad. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to work against, right? America was doing very well between, for the, hundreds of years before the 1860s, right? America was doing
they had right. Labor.
Right. It was doing very well, but we weren't doing so well.
That was right? When it was great.
Right, 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 and it's no coincidence why they use that "Make America Great Again" thing, right? Um, you know, but for the couple hundred years after that, or for the 150 years after that, America, there were times when America did very well, especially, I just read, I'm starting to reread Ira Katznelson's "When Affirmative Action Was White," okay, and he starts out with Johnson's speech at Howard University in the '60s, where where something about Lyndon Johnson is talking about, how is it that during the '40s and '50s, when we had this great expansion of, American power and American wealth, how is it that African Americans went in the opposite direction? Okay, now, he knew why, and he sort of didn't go into all of why, but the rest of the book goes into the all of the why. And but it's just, they lay out the sort of legislative evidence, right? The sort of, the sort of legislative crime scene, sort of how it is that you make America do well while Black people are doing really bad. And so that's why, so one, there's that real legislative, real reality history of it, but people also know that in their own lives. I think, people who are inside the Black community and who are outside the Black community, right? And I know that we can be doing really, really bad, and other people can be doing really, really good, and that's just sort of, how it is. Like, for example, one of the things that we focus on here that we're focusing on here in Sacramento is the really, really high unemployment rates for African Americans here. 30, 35, 40%. Really, it's higher than that, right? In certain neighborhoods. Those are crisis level numbers. Okay? But that says, like, that's evidence of community collapse. That's evidence of social collapse, social failure, right? But other people in other communities are doing pretty well, pretty good. And if you talk to the mayor, you talk to city officials, they'll tell you that, hey, the city's doing better than it's ever done, yeah, there are problems here and there, but for the most part, we're doing okay. And so yeah, it's true that we can be doing very bad and others can be doing very well. And that's why it's going to be hard to get across the message that, hey, what's good for me is good for you, because of what I'm saying now.
But then it becomes like, like I say, Samson, jump in. I'm trying not to be
one thing. First tell the truth. Not when you give people cluttered with information every day and bad information, 90%, and leave the good information alone. People correct and good decisions, or we will hope they will make it possible. Too long in the Black community, when the same tools that you have and don't give it to them, two students, one white and one Black, and they are taught from it's from 1994. But guess what? There's going to be a difference in how they learn and what they perceive to be reality in this world. My thing with South DeKalb, we are about to show the people in South DeKalb it's time for a level. Get the same opportunities as Dunwoody, Peachtree Corners, Dorville, North Cross, and some Mr. Burrell, I think you're jealous of those cities. I'm not jealous of them. I'm glad, because guess what? So are we.
Yep. We're having some technical difficulties. So Samson, you're kind of breaking up. Chris, I'm not. I think I'm kind of breaking up too. So technology is not tonight.
No, you're probably fine on mine. I wanted to touch on something that Samson just said, though, if I could. So I would. So I want to put something on your radar, both of your radars, which is there's research now out. I'm not going to get this 100% right. I know it was done with people like Tom Shapiro, I think with Sandy Darity, with maybe Derek Hamilton, but but there's research now, that's maybe a year or so old that speaks to this question of opportunity. So if we equalize the opportunity among the communities, which is a lot of what Samson was just sort of ending on right there. So I want to put to you both that is going to get us part of the way, and that's important. We need to go that part of the way. We also need to go a step further. So, for example, the research that I've seen, and I'm not going to get this, and I hope I don't butcher this, but let's talk education, right? Because Samson is talking education, right? So I think the research that I saw, and again, I'm going to not get this 100% right, but so if we equalize, let's say, the rate of college completion among blacks and whites, right? If we equalize, so I gave every, I snap my fingers, and now black people graduate college at the same rate. Complete college at the same rate as white people. Right? I snap my fingers, done. Right. The research that I've seen says that would decrease the racial wealth gap by probably about 1%. Okay. So equalizing the rates of college completion, blacks and whites, making them the same, you bring the racial wealth gap down by 1%. Okay, it's not a small thing, but it's not a big thing either, right? It's not a huge change, right? If you equalize the rates of college completion and you gave every black person and white person the same returns to a college degree, right? Mm-hmm. The same returns to a college degree, which is a different thing. It's a different thing, right? It's a subtle thing, but it's a different thing, right? If you did that, you would bring down the racial wealth gap by, I think, some 10%. Okay, so I think it's like a 10 times bigger thing, right? Both of those things matter. Okay, in the position that we are in terms of wealth, both of those things matter. Both of one is good, 10% is better, but both are still good, right? But I just want to put that on your radar, because that hopefully that can inform some of the actions that you take. So it's not going. So for example, I wouldn't. So for an elected official or for some sort of policy, right? Yes, we need to do policy work that helps, bring up black, let's say, college completion or black high school completion, right? I'm just using that as an example. But we also need to do some other work too to normalize what you get from completing college, right? And what you get from, doing all the things that we're telling you to do in terms of education. I mean, I'm using the college completion example. Obviously, we need resources into public education at the high school and the junior high school and the elementary school level. Here in California, we shared an article in the last couple of weeks that 75% of California black boys don't read at their grade level. 75%. Okay, as of 2017. So that is obviously unacceptable. But yeah, we need to put in resources, before the college level too.
Yeah. But I'm gonna take it back to political. I just think that it needs to be intentional when it comes to writing policy and politics around communities that need it. Equity, we want to be equitable with our resources. If you need it, we want to make sure you get what you need so that you can be equal. When you talk about equality and equity, I want to make sure that we're equitable with our resources. We're making sure that those communities that need more support, we give them more support. And I think that's what frustrates me politically, because I think that, like, for example, there's an opportunity for, Amazon is looking at coming somewhere in the metro Atlanta area. For that kind of facility with that kind of job opportunity, the area, the land it would need, that part of particularly the district that I'm in, it's already overpopulated. We're over capacity to the point where there's sewage spillage all over the county because of, we're over capacity in certain areas, but you want to bring, because this is a more affluent area, you want to pack people in. They're talking about building highways on top of highways when you can't even get rail service or, any kind of public transportation in these urban communities. It's like greed. And I believe that there's a heart in my district, and I hope to tap into the heart of these people, of the people of Senate District 40, because I believe there's a heart that you understand that this is not just about me, like Samson was just saying. It's not about me and I. It's we. It's us. It's how do we build a better sense of community outside of our own backyards? Because that's what it all boils down to. It's about sharing resources. It's about making Georgia great. It's about making California great. When we become one and we start competing internally, politically, and start competing, let's compete internationally. Why? We should be better than all these other countries on so many other levels, but we're not. So it's very frustrating politically to watch the competitiveness inside of America when we need to be completing each other and making America a better place for all of us to live.
No, I would agree with that. I think, so we did an Amazon deal here in Sacramento, in the city of Sacramento last year, right? We did an Amazon deal where, so one, these big corporate relocations, they happen through the local government. Like, let's just be clear, right? They happen through the local governments, city, county, state. Like, so one, like, there's no way to separate the politics from this, like we were saying in the beginning. But we did an Amazon deal here in Sacramento. I think they're promising to bring in, 1,500, something, a certain amount of a certain amount of jobs, net new jobs. They're promising to bring in. We need to be involved in these discussions, these decisions before they're happening, while they're happening, because once they happen, it's it's so much harder to do anything about them if you don't like the decisions that were made, right? And I'm sure, Samson, you would agree with this too, right? It's for what you're doing in terms of the organizing and in terms of the South DeKalb County Alliance, right? Is to hold political leaders accountable, and that's absolutely necessary. There has to be, policy is only the first piece. There has to be the enforcement, and I feel like the accountability that the community organizations bring is a part of the enforcement, piece. And that, like, doesn't matter how good the policy is, if it's not enforced, it's like having no policy at all. But you also want to be making the decisions, so it's not, so you're not having to do so much on the accountability side, because you've also done a lot of the, hey, let me help you make the right decisions, or let me make the decisions that are in the best interest for the people of South DeKalb County or North DeKalb County.
Yeah. Samson, your feed is a little choppy. I'm getting text messages.
Let me say this.
Make sure you come closer to your camera. And
okay, is that better?
Yes. Just your feed is choppy, but go ahead.
I want to say, just let me say this. Officials can only do so much.
Yeah.
They can only do so much.
That's true.
And so what South DeKalb Community Alliance is asking of the community, we're asking them to put the foot forward first in joining and making this a better county. We can't depend on, if you have someone for 10, 15, 20 years and nothing has changed, they are pretty much, they're getting a check. If you have people that heavy rail, we're going to help reduce crime, we're going to deal with this. If a elected official has been telling you that for 20 years and it hasn't happened, guess what? It's probably not going to happen with that elected official.
Yeah. Right.
So tonight, our goal was to talk about 3 areas: community, economics, and politics. And the goal was to talk about, this is a conversation I'm definitely going to have again with these gentlemen, because I know tonight's feed was a little choppy. So those of you that have managed to stay with us, thank you so much for just kind of like riding it out with us. We're definitely going to do this again. But tonight was about community, it was about economics, and it's about politics. And this is how we bridge this divide. This is I think so much, I want to get beyond the conversations about race. I want us to get beyond that, because I think as a country, we are a melting pot, and we have to be, intentional about all communities, no matter what color. All communities, we have to be very intentional about strengthening communities, building communities, and being, doing positive things in those 3 areas: community, economics, and politics, that work for all of us collectively. Like I said, I don't want to compete, I want to complete. And that is my goal, and that's my agenda as a future elected official, is to figure out how we complete each other, how we make communities stronger and better, and how we share our resources. I don't want this greed that's happening. I mean, we got to address need, not greed. Chris?
Yeah. No, I was gonna one, follow up with that by saying that, if we're really going to get to if we're going to build a coalition that includes, if we're going to build a coalition that includes non-Black people to fight for, issues that affect Black people, then we're gonna have to get our heads around, and we're really gonna have to figure out what's the best way to incentivize, or I don't know if incentivize is the right word, but I don't want to say make it in the interests of other communities, but a lot of what politics is a transactional kind of thing, right? And as long as we have this, I can do, our community does well when your community is doing bad. And
can you hear me?
In many ways, when my community is doing well because your community is doing bad. We need to get clear and get sort of sharp and get, really serious about how we build that coalition, and, to be honest, we're gonna, it's gonna take white people and Hispanic people, Latino people, and what we call Asian people. It's going to take non-black people, who are willing to take who are willing to do something that's not in their interests in many ways. Okay, not in their economic interests in many ways, or at least directly, or at least in the short term. Yes, we can make the argument that it's good for everyone. It's good for everyone if everyone's doing well. But again, that's not really how our economy is organized. Our economy is organized to have winners and losers. And so unless we're talking about changing the economic system and changing the economic structure, which is a conversation we can have.
Yeah, right? We need to have that conversation the next time, because I feel like I'm just like, we have to change it, because this does not work. We talk about
for us. Yeah.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work for all people. And when you have, we have winners and we have losers, and that just doesn't work. That doesn't work. And when you talk about social programs, and when you talk, they want to take people off these social programs. What's going to happen when you don't feed people? Let me give you an ugly example. People are hungry. They're desperate. Guess what's going to happen to you when you're living in your affluent neighborhood and you stop feeding people and taking care of people? What you think?
I'm probably going to take. Some people are going to take your stuff. People
going to hurt you. People going to be desperate.
Yeah,
people running around like that because you are so, you're so caught up in this one, your space.
So you're talking about and I'm glad you brought this up. We've got, Black people should be aware, especially in the South, actually, where most of our people are. Most of our people are in the South still. Okay. But we have to be, we have to know that over the next several months, there is a very high chance that there are going to be cuts to some social programs that Black people rely on very, very heavily. And that's something I'm talking SNAP. That's what we call food stamps. In my day, it was called food stamps. When I used to get, in my day, it was actually like physical money. So my mom used to give me the dollars and send me to the store. We called it new money, as a joke, but it's food stamps, WIC, TANF, temporary assistance for needy families, Medicaid, child care subsidies, housing subsidies and vouchers, LIHEAP, which is the low income, housing and energy assistance, program. There are going to be some real big cuts coming to these programs, and that's just some of them. Okay, so
what? Okay, we know this is going to happen.
Yeah,
we'll come back to you, Samson. His feed dropped. Come closer to the mic, Samson. I hope you're not choppy this time. Come closer to the mic and chime in. We can hear. We see you.
Question. I didn't hear the question.
Can you hear us okay? Because I've been getting text messages that your feed is real choppy. You coming in and out. They're not hearing all your words.
At a time. So I just asked, what was the question? I didn't hear the question.
We're talking about the social programs that are being cut. And my reply to Chris was that when they start cutting these social programs, I don't think that's good that's not good for people. When people are hungry, they're desperate. And, bad things are, crime is going to be, at a high because people don't have what they need, for basic survival. And the first law of nature is survival. So when they start cutting these social programs, which is inevitable with this administration, what happens to people?
Was also taking a see. That's where the church is supposed to come in, and the community leaders and community organizations. We have to stop being dependent on the government, and we have to start looking and finding solutions that would better serve the community. That's why we have churches in our community. That's why we have community organizations. So when the government decide not to do their job, we're supposed to automatically kick in. We're supposed to be the only one resource when the government is not around. Why is that? Because we have to make sure the safety and security of our young people. Yes, and programs are being cut. Money is being taken away. But when do the church and the community organizations step up? They have to step up and fill that void that is missing in the community. And so it falls on every citizen. It falls on every citizen.
Yeah. So this is definitely a conversation I wanted to talk tonight, and I know this is so heavy and this is so deep that we've been able to kind of go and start this conversation, but I definitely want to maybe follow up in a week. You guys, let's do part 2 to this if you guys are game for it, and hopefully we'll have a better feed with you, Samson. We'll work through some of these technical difficulties, but tonight I really wanted us to really touch on this bridging this divide. I started a Facebook page called Acknowledge the Divide. And the things that we talked about tonight, this is where you acknowledge what's happening in these communities and we need to start talking about these things so that we can figure out how to build bridges, get beyond these race is what it is. And I think that becomes a whole nother conversation around race and racism. But tonight was literally about politics, community, and economics, and how we bridge this black-white divide in incorporation with race, because a lot of it is, these are communities of color, and these are other communities that are more affluent and predominantly white, and we got to have these hard conversations because we're all losing. America is losing right now. So, Samson, can we do this again?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Chris, can we do this again?
Yeah, no, I'm game totally. I'm a little bit under the weather, so my voice is it's nasal. But if I could though, before we go, I wanted to give one solution to this last piece that we were just talking about the cuts to the social programs. And I hear I hear everything that my brother Samson is saying about the community organizations stepping up and kicking in and supporting where the government sort of steps out. That's something that we're going to need the community organizations to do no matter what. It's almost certainly not going to be enough because of what the problem is. So one of the things that we're advocating for now is, the state of California has, created, I think by law, if I'm not mistaken, but it's mandated to have what's called a rainy day fund, right? And so the state of California puts money into a rainy day fund. Okay, it's money it sets aside, and what we're gonna be, what we are already advocating for is when the feds cut this money, the money that they normally give to the state of California to support our Cal Fresh program, which is the SNAP program, or our Cal Works program, right? Or our Medi-Cal program, okay? Right? When the feds cut this money in a few months, right? We want the money from the rainy day fund to move to blunt any effect to African Americans here who are using these programs. Okay, so that's one policy solution that we're advocating for and publicly supporting right now to protect Black people here in California. So I just wanted to throw that out there, just to sort of put the bookend on some of that talk. But yeah, I know we definitely need to have this conversation for more, and for longer, excuse me. So I'm definitely game. Sorry about that.
Samson, we're gonna have you. You want to give us some closing remarks? I know you're always bubbling over.
I want the best for the people of this county, and so I'm committed all the way 100% to make that this county and the greater good of the people is represented and have a voice, not only just in this county, but we need that throughout the country.
Yeah, exactly. And those are my sentiments. Exactly. I'm with you. Yeah, that, politically, I hope to be a resource, to bridge the divide that we have between North and South DeKalb. The current senator does not reach down into the county. Like I said, there's no initiatives to do anything to improve all of DeKalb. It's all about North DeKalb, and it needs to be about all of DeKalb. It needs to be about all of Georgia. And as a state senator, my job is to work and worry about all of Georgia. I will represent my constituents in my district, but my job is to make Georgia better and be a part of the overall solution, not part of a solution that benefits a select few, but it benefits all of Georgia. And I think when we elect people that go in that we put in office, I think that they need to be mindful that their job is to serve all people, not just some people. So that will be how I will serve. So I want to thank you guys for joining me on this broadcast tonight. I will be sharing this. We'll be sharing this everywhere. Share this again, and we'll actually have a part 2 because this was just touching on issues of economics, community, and politics. You got the race factor in it because racism, and race relations is at the root of why we can't move forward as a country and as a people. So good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on this broadcast.
True.
Thank you. Thanks so much for hosting.
Absolutely. Good night, Samson.